Welcome to Lighthouse, Homeschooling in Oregon with Ocean Network.
Hello, friends, and welcome to the Lighthouse. In this special edition series of the Lighthouse, I'm going to be speaking directly to Christian dads who are homeschooling, or thinking about homeschooling, or maybe just trying to keep up with your homeschooling wife. I'm your host, Aaron Meyer, and this is episode 1 of a 6-part series we're going to be doing specifically for dads. This whole series grew out of a talk that I gave at a homeschool conference in Hawaii. And if we're honest with ourselves, most guys feel out of place when it comes to homeschooling, even those homeschools that are happening at our own dining room tables. Many of us are simply winging it as we go, or perhaps we're so unsure of what our role is that we bow out altogether. Rest assured, this isn't going to be another one of those "you should be doing better" messages. We're just going to talk, but in a way that's a little less conference talk and a little more two guys talking in a garage. So grab some coffee, buckle up, and let's get into it. Okay, so first things first. When I say leading your homeschool, what does that actually mean? Because I think a lot of dads hear that phrase and picture themselves at a whiteboard with a dry erase marker teaching long division. And then they immediately check out because that sounds terrible. That's not what we're talking about. Leading your homeschool is about ownership. It's about knowing why your family is doing this. It's about being present, not necessarily physically available every minute of the day, because most of us have jobs and lives, but mentally and spiritually present. It's about setting the tone for what happens in your home. Now, there's a distinction that I think is really important, and it changes the way that I think about this. See, there's a difference between homeschooling and home discipleship. Homeschooling's a choice. It's an educational method. It's one of several options families have for how their kids learn. Home discipleship is a calling, and it's not new. It's not something curriculum companies invented. It's something God's baked into the design of the family from the very beginning. There's a passage in Deuteronomy 6 that may have lost its punch with you just because we hear it so often in the context of homeschooling, but I want you to stay with me and hear what we're saying. It says, "Listen, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. And you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your strength. And you must commit yourselves wholeheartedly to these commands that I'm giving to you today. Repeat them again and again to your children. Talk about them when you're at home and when you're on the road and when you're going to bed and when you're getting up." Talk about them when you're at home, when you're on the road, when you're going to bed, and when you're getting up. That's not a school schedule. That's a life schedule. God is describing discipleship that happens in the middle of ordinary life, and he's describing it to parents, specifically to fathers. So whatever you think about the academic piece, and we'll get into that, the foundation of why you're doing this isn't about curriculum. It's about passing on faith and wisdom to your kids. And that part's on you. There's a verse in Joshua that I love. Like, it's one of those verses where I just feel it in my chest when I read it. Joshua is addressing all of Israel, and he says, if you refuse to serve the Lord, then choose today who you are going to serve. And then he goes on to say, but as for me and my family, we will serve the Lord. As for me and my family, we will serve the Lord. Now, I don't know about you, but something in me just rises up when I hear that. There's something about a man planting a flag and saying, this is where we stand. And that resonates with something I think God put in us as men. We're wired to stand for something, to fight for something, to lead something. And I would argue that homeschooling, done with intention, done with a biblical foundation, is one of those flags. When your family chose this path, Even if it was mostly your wife's idea at first, you said yes. And that yes matters. See, the buck stops with us. Not in a way that's meant to crush you, but in a way that's meant to call you up. Your family's looking to you to know that this matters. There's a reason you're doing this. They need to know that Dad is in. And here's the thing. Your kids don't need you to be perfect. They just need you to be present and committed. And those are two very different things. Now, I want to talk a little bit deeper about this with you, because I think there's a version of everything I just said that can feel really heavy if you don't have the next part. When I look around at other homeschool dads, or just other dads in general, I can find guys who seem to have it all so much more together than I do. You know, they're natural leaders, they're super organized. The kind of guy that has a family devotional every night at the dinner table, and everybody sits there and it's meaningful and nobody's throwing food. I'm not that guy. I'm a regular dude with a schedule that doesn't always cooperate and a natural tendency towards procrastination. I've missed things. I've gotten it wrong. And I've shown up to conversations a little too late when it mattered. But here's what I keep coming back to. The Apostle Paul, who's pretty much the gold standard for Christian leadership, said this about himself and of God. Each time he said, "My grace is all you need. My power, God's power, works best in weakness. So now I am glad to boast about my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ can work through me. For when I am weak, then I'm strong." God's not waiting for you to get your act completely together before he can use you to lead your family. He's already working through you with your quirks, your blind spots, and all. Paul also said something that I think is the most practical leadership principle in the whole of the New Testament. Imitate me just as I imitate Christ. That's it. That's the bar, not perfection, faithful following. Your kids don't need a perfect dad. They need a dad who's genuinely trying to follow Jesus and is willing to bring them along for the journey, including showing them what it looks like to get back up when you fall down. And that's something every one of us can do. All right, you made it this far and you're thinking, okay, I kind of want to take this more seriously, but I don't even know where to start. And that's exactly where we're headed in this series. You don't need to have it all figured out before you start leading. Leadership starts with showing up. It starts with saying, I'm in. It starts with a decision that you're not going to leave this whole thing entirely on your wife's plate. So the next time, we're going to talk about something really practical, what you specifically bring to your homeschool. The gifts, the experience, the random dad skills that you've probably never thought of as homeschool assets. And even if you don't think they're very much, I think the next episode is going to surprise you. If this episode resonated with you, share it with another homeschool dad. Seriously, we could all use more of these conversations. Thanks for tuning into the Lighthouse, and I'll see you next time. Take care of your family.
Thanks for listening to Lighthouse, Homeschooling in Oregon with Ocean Network. Don't forget to send us your questions, and make sure to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with other Oregon homeschool families. Join us again next time as we continue encouraging and informing homeschoolers across Oregon for the Lord Jesus Christ.